and Muqtedar Khan. Today we are going to talk about how the United States has publicly rebuked India about its human rights record. But before that, please subscribe to Khanversations, like the video, and also plan to share it with your friends and colleagues. Secretary Antony Blinken actually rebuked India publicly at the 2x2 meeting, the meeting of the foreign minister and defense ministers of these two countries, which are so rapidly becoming close allies in global politics. Secretary Antony Blinken basically said that the US is monitoring and deeply concerned by the human rights violations by some Indian government officials, the police, and officials in prisons. So very clearly, Antony Blinken has identified the Indian government as the sources of human rights violations against minorities in India. This is an important moment because there has been a momentum building inside the United States with various lobbies, Hindus for Human Rights, Indian American Muslims, and those who are deeply concerned about the declining democratic nature of India in the past few years, where its rankings have declined, whether it's on human rights or with regards to protection of the civil rights of minorities. And so this momentum is putting a lot of pressure on the U.S. government to take it up with India. The U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom has for several years now identified the declining human rights condition of India and demanded that the State Department label India as a country of particular concern. The State Department has not done that so far. It is quite possible that they might do it in the near future. So why is the US now so forcefully raising the human rights card? I think the fact that India in the past few months has made foreign policy decisions which make the American side think about how enduring and durable is this strategic partnership. The US has been investing in India, trying to make India a partner in the Indo-Pacific strategy, along with Japan and Australia, to build a bulwark against the power of China. But India, when it purchased the S-400s from Russia, and then again India, when it turned its back on US F-16s and bought French fighters, the US used to be the second biggest exporter of defense material to India, but now it has become fourth after Russia, France, and Israel. So even though there's a lot of talk about growing US-India relations, some of the foreign policy decisions that India has made, especially now with regards to not condemning Russia in the United Nations various forums for so horribly invading Ukraine and causing such humanitarian disaster in Ukraine. And India is not only not condemned Russia, but is also trying to subvert the sanctions that the West has imposed on Russia by trying to build a rupee-ruble trade with Russia and buying Russian energy. So the United States is generally very upset with Indian foreign policy at the moment, and I think it is to pressure India that they have raised the human rights card. It's not as if the US does not have partners who have horrendous human rights records like Saudi Arabia, Israel, and for a long time we have had relations with dictators in the Middle East like Egypt, where we have looked the other way when they have committed human rights violations. So the US now is raising the human rights card, and I think because of two reasons. One, that they are seeing that the Indian foreign policy is moving further and further away from where the US would like India to be, a reliable partner in maintaining international security. The second thing is that there is a constituency growing in the United States which does want the US to continue to be a strong advocate for human rights overseas and also combat Islamophobia overseas. There has been a bill that has been already passed by the Congress, the lower house of the US Parliament, and it is sitting in the US Senate. President Biden has indicated if the Islamophobia bill passes the Senate, then he will sign the bill. So hopefully the Senate will do its job, and once this bill is passed to combat Islamophobia internationally, One of the issues which consistently come up is the way India and Indian government treats its Muslim minorities. So that momentum is also putting pressure on the US administration, the Biden administration, to repeatedly raise the human rights issue with the Indian government. When Prime Minister Modi met with Vice President Kamala Harris, she raised this issue too at that time, but it was a bit softly, a bit mildly, and now Secretary of State Antony Blinken has raised it much more forcefully. It's also interesting to see that the Indian Foreign Minister and Indian Defense Minister have had no response during the press conference when Antony Blinken raised this issue, and at the time of this recording, the Indian government also has not issued any statement. On the issue of human rights, the Indian government has essentially turned out to be very thick-skinned, no matter how much criticism comes, no matter how India falls down the rankings on democracy. They seem to be pursuing with their agenda of re-engineering India into a Hindu state. But is this going to be a turning point in US-India relations? I don't think so. I don't think that the United States is going to completely compromise its need for India as a partner in Asian security, and the US has invested a lot in India, and it's not going to just write all of that off in one go. But this is clear that something has changed, and going forward, while there will be no drastic changes in US and India strategic partnership, growth in economy, growth in technical cooperation, growth in higher education, all of that is going to happen. But along with this, we will also see a consistent dialogue about the human rights situation in India. And I think that the human rights momentum movement for human rights in India that is growing inside the US will become more and more powerful, and therefore this dialogue with India about the declining human rights situation in India will become a dominant element of US-India relations going forward. I'm Muqtedar Khan. I'm the host of Khanversations. If you found this discussion useful, please share it with your friends and colleagues, and also subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much.